This series might as well be now called Calves Every Day. For the last probably 9-10 days since I've started running every single day, I've been getting mean calf pumps every single day. Every single time I run, the way I'm running, which is kind of like, more on my forefoot, I basically never strike it with my heel. It's all in the calves. And because, I haven't run in a long time and I've got this added body weight now since the last time I've run, my lower legs are just so far behind that's the weakest link right now. So I'm getting these mean pumps when I'm running. And also when I started doing the Stairmaster machine, that also gave me a pump. Not only in the calves, but also in the anterior tibialis. Because, as you're stepping up, you have to clear the step to put your foot on top. What made matters even worse, today I got those minimalistic shoes that everyone's been talking about. Finally got around to. I've been talking about it seemingly for years now. What are they called? Vivo Barefoot, something like that. I found a shop that's actually not far away from the gym where I train that sell these. Popped in. I was surprised how freaking expensive they are. I mean the shoe is so minimal. I'm like, what are you guys charging here for? This is a sock, man. Anyway, I ended up spending $210 for these shoes. They're originally $250. I looked at the guy and he said to me this was on special. He said $210. I'm like, so what is it now? It was $210. What is it now? Oh, no, it's $210 now after the special. What the hell? How much was it? $250. Anyway, put them on, walked around the shop, and I felt really nice with them. I get attracted to just having minimal support. I don't like shoes that I feel like I'm wearing a freaking boot. One of the criticisms that I had of the Nike Olympic weightlifting shoes that I bought years ago, the Romoleo 2s, it's a nice shoe and everyone says it's a nice shoe. What I don't like about it, it's basically made out of wood, man. The sole is wooden, so you can't really flex your toes. I feel like I'm wearing concrete blocks. That's what it feels like when I wear them, and I don't like it. When you lift, I guess it's not too bad when you lift. It still kind of feels like I'm squatting downhill. Better positioning, more underneath the bar, all of that. What I hated about those shoes is that you have to live for an hour and a half, in them, in the squatting session, in general. And I just didn't like that. And it takes me back to my injuries of the ankles. Because I was always in these shoes when I first started wearing them, some probably 5-6 years ago, I was always wearing them. And I felt as though my feet got weaker. And it makes sense. They were completely immobile. No requirement for dorsiflexion. No requirement for any sort of stabilizations within the foot. I mean, there's shoelaces and there's straps, Velcro straps around it. So it's full support. So, you put them on, you kind of walk around. You almost feel like your feet are not even yours. And, the first time I rolled my ankle severely, I stopped playing basketball frequently. It was like a once a week thing when we had time. We'd go out and shoot around and play pickup ball and play social basketball. And I'm, in my days off of basketball, I started training quite seriously in these Olympic weightlifting shoes. And, I'm not training my feet at all. I'm putting all this muscle in my quads, hamstrings, glutes, all that. Go to the basketball court and I felt like I was on ice, man. My feet are just so weak. The calves are so weak. There's no dorsiflexion. There's no tibialis anterior strength, calf strength. There's nothing. And that's why I started rolling ankles. And I was so surprised the first time I rolled it, man, because I played basketball, up until that point, probably 10 years. I used to roll ankles and just walk off and continue playing on because I had strong feet. I had strong calves. I never wore really supportive shoes. It was always, for most part, it was always, low tops, low cuts. 12 months later, again, still playing even less basketball, more weightlifting, more Olympic weightlifting shoes, rolled it out on the other foot. So, I started getting really bad feet, and that's when the seed for why am I freaking rolling my ankles so much, that's when I kind of gave up basketball because my passion was now the barbell, and so I gave that up. But I'm thinking to myself now, I will probably still be playing basketball. Maybe I would have less of a chance to get injured if I was playing basketball, if I was wearing these type of shoes. Minimalistic in nature. So I'm training with a completely no support shoe, and then you put on a basketball shoe, which is a little bit more support, and that's how you play. So it's like you're training at worse conditions than you are playing in or playing the game in, right? So it's like the game, you're never going to get injured in a game if you're training like that, right? But these shoes, man, these Vivo, whatever they're called, Vivo bare feet, whatever they're called. Man, I thought the Chuck Taylors or the Converse, that I was wearing for years on end, I bought like 3 or 4 pairs in this time. I thought they were flat soled. No. When I put these on, I felt like my toes were elevated because my feeling was that the Converse were flat. No, the Converse has a bit of a heel, and it's evident the moment you get into some of these types of shoes, like with truly a flat sole. So when I started squatting today, I was like, God damn, I have even less dorsiflexion now. Really uncomfortable. What made it worse today as well is because, really, really tired today. Didn't sleep well. Had a big session yesterday. Did the reverse pyramid from 170 kilos on the front squats. Did a whole lot of Stairmaster and running yesterday. So I woke up today and I was like, really pumped up in the calves, sore calves. Then I put these shoes on and I'm like, damn, I have no dorsiflexion. So I struggled, but I can say already that it feels good. Like I actually feel the floor underneath me. And it's got a really wide toe box. So my feet are kind of out there as well. Like it's a strange shoe, man. It's a really, really strange feeling. Today was obviously the day one of me wearing them. And I almost feel like it would have been easier to be completely bare feet, because at least I have some intuition about that. I have some experience with that. With these shoes, it's kind of weird. Like I'm expecting them to feel like Converse, but they're not feeling like Converse. So anyway, I finally made the transition. To this minimalistic type of footwear. I'm planning to walk around in these shoes all the time. Hopefully they'll last. They kind of look like they're a right build, but they're so lightweight. I'm just worried they might fall apart. Apparently some guys run trails with this. I don't know what sort of people these people are, man. Like, I don't know how you would go stepping on a sharp rock with this shoe. Like, damn. Obviously, you can condition your feet and whatever, and the bones in your foot are supposed to move. They're not supposed to be protected so well. And a few of you guys have mentioned that book, Born to Run, I think it's called. The book talks about, these natives are somewhere from Africa. I'm not sure where they are. They're running in sandals, running marathons essentially in sandals. So like basically no support at all. So the potential for the feet to get stronger is there. It just takes time. It takes time for these, ligaments and tendons, these connective tissues to catch up, because as we know, connective tissue is not all that vascular, so basically the only time they get perfusion is when you are actually moving. Whereas with muscles, right, you do a session now, and then for the next 24 hours until you hit that muscle group again, it's continuously getting repaired because there's a lot of capillary networks, there's a lot of blood supply to these tissues, and so they can repair quite quicker. This is something that I learned, back when I had the ankle injuries. I had the doctor checked me out, the x-rays or whatever, and they're like, oh, look, your ligaments have popped off. The first time I fractured a bone in my foot, and that recovery was quicker than the recovery for the other ankle where I ruptured ligaments. When I did my bone, the first time around, the doctor's like, oh, you're lucky. I'm like, what do you mean I'm lucky? I fractured a freaking bone. And he's like, no, those recover quicker than you would, if you did your ligaments. And then 12 months later, I did do the ligaments. And yeah, the recovery was longer, man. It was just the swelling was there for longer. I was much more restricted for a longer period of time because of this idea of perfusion. Connective tissues don't have a direct freaking blood supply. So the way they get blood supply, and this is the whole thing about ATG squatting, about frequency of training, the way these structures like ACLs, PCLs, MCLs, all these LCLs, the way they get perfusion is through movement. So the knee basically is in a jar of this fluid called synovial fluid. And when you're moving about the place, this synovial fluid is basically just washing around. And this synovial fluid gets nutrients and waste products out through essentially diffusion from adjacent structures. For adjacent capillary networks, which are found kind of like, on the muscles of the leg or whatever. So it's through diffusion that they're getting this stuff. So the synovial fluid gets kind of washed around, blah, 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 blah. And these ligaments get their nutrition through the synovial fluid. So it's like this second hand, third hand, fourth hand nutrients. And so it's a very, very slow transition, very slow process, very slow transport from the freaking, from the gut, from the mouth, from the lungs, all these nutrients to get to the side that we need them to. And so when you do an ACL, when you do a ligament of any sort, the thinking there is it's a longer process to get stronger. And this is why when you're talking about plyometrics, when you're talking about specificity, right? Playing basketball, playing baseball, playing rugby, you can be jacked as all hell, but you go onto the field, you go onto the court, you start breaking these connective tissues. You might have the horsepower, but you don't have a clutch. You don't have the ties to put this down. Oh, how do you train that? Well, there's ways of training it, but like I said, the recovery process is such a long, curve that you can't rush this stuff. So if you've been out of the game for 4 or 5 years, man, you've had 4 or 5 years of atrophy of some of these structures, the tendons, the ligaments, and so on. So, if you continue weight training or whatever, like the tendons are going to be quite strong and the ligaments are going to be, keeping up. But if you're talking about specific power expressions like jumping, sprinting, all of that, you got to be very, very careful because, you haven't practiced that, you haven't trained that. So if I started sprinting right now, with this body that can produce 212 kilos of squatting power, 260 of deadlifting power, and I start sprinting, the chance of injury is through the roof. Much more higher than somebody like me 10 years ago that had a deadlift of 50 kilos and a squat of 30 kilos, right? Because I don't have an engine to snap the body parts with. Like you can't break a Corolla that easy, right? My mom can jump in a Corolla and drive it as fast as and hard as she wants. It's fail-proof, basically. It's made so you can't smash it. But if I give my mom the Evo and she drops the clutch from 10 grand, well, guess what happens, man? Things start to really get worn out and snapping, right? So it's kind of like that. The more power you have within your body, the more careful you have to be in the application of your body. So you can't go playing tennis after 10 years of not doing any sports. You're just doing Olympic weightlifting and bodybuilding and powerlifting. All of a sudden you're there running. Gotta be careful, man, because things can go bang, especially when you're in your 30s and your 40s. I remember when I was 16, I'd wake up out of bed, literally just open my eyes, go into a full sprint into the backyard and start playing. Right now, if you ask me to get out of this, this house, go outside and go for a full sprint, I would book it that I would snap something. Something would let go. Probably my hamstring. Which is one of the reasons, a lot of you guys are asking me, why don't you play basketball anymore? It's for this reason, man. I've conditioned my body, I've strengthened my body to such an extent that, my brain reckons this is how we used to play basketball, but now I've got this other body, much more power, much more explosiveness, and I'm afraid that some of these other structures, like I talked about, the connective tissues, they just might snap. I don't have the balance anymore of planting my foot and changing direction, sliding my feet left to right, bumping players, but getting bumped in midair and then landing on one foot after a layout. I haven't done that in years. And now I've got 20 extra more kilos on the frame and all this muscle and all this strength now. You're asking for lots and lots of trouble, man. So you got to really stay in your lane and think about what you want to do in life because you can't be doing everything at once. Anyway, got these shoes. They're challenging me, challenging all these connective tissues. I'm taking it real slow, man. A lot of you guys are telling me be careful. I am being careful, man. Being careful. I do not want another injury. So I'm doing 500-meter runs right now at the speed of 6 kilometers an hour, which is a freaking joke, right? But that's what I need to do. That's what's necessary for me to continue on this journey without injuries. Appreciate all of you guys, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.